My life I've lived, now I meet with my demise. Karbala, I shed my tears wondering what I have been. I come to you dressed in all my lies and sin. I can't bear, oh forgive her. Now I'm here in Karbala, Karbala.
Going to give you the longest nare hayder inshallah. Nare
والعاقبة للمتقين.
I hope this show puts aside any misconceptions that the Shias have a different Quran. Not only do we have the same Quran, we have even more beautiful reciters.
I don't know how to say his name.
Yeah,
but you know how to say Liverpool.
Allah.
I didn't think we needed to stop him. I thought he's in a good...
No, you give me ticket?
That's fine. I was coming to that.
My whole family was baffled. They were all like, what's she gonna talk about? What's she gonna talk about? We get a one-way ticket to hell, no transit.
The Zahra Trust, changing millions of lives every year.
As lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, we all have an inclination to the epitome of love. When we rejoice, when times are hard, whatever stage of life we are in, we all yearn to be in one special place. We all wish to visit the blessed shrine of Imam Hussein in the holy city of Karbala. Not all of us have the blessing to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, but there is still a way to experience the sights and sound of the blessed land of Karbala in the comfort of your own homes.
We call upon you, dear viewers, to support us in our financial costs to help bring the Holy Land of Karbala beaming into your homes. You can support us with a monthly donation of just $50 or £30. We are your gateway to Karbala. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Imam Hussein TV 3.
Water is the key to life, yet millions have no access to this basic human necessity. Imam Hussein Charity is building water wells in Pakistan. Help the survival of many who can't have this basic human right, those who are at risk of disease and even worse, death. Imam Hussein Charity has a 6-month guarantee of completion of each water well project. Help transform the lives of the believers who live without water. Donate today.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Assalamu alaikum to my dear brothers and sisters, the viewers of Imam Hussein TV. The concept of marriage in the 21st century is evolving and changing at a rapid pace. And the concept of marriage is usually seen as a lifetime contract, a lifetime agreement between two individuals, i.e. the husband and the wife, and is usually and oftenly coincides with solely religious celebrations or religious ceremonies, or sometimes it's solely cultural ceremonies, and at many times you would find that they are a mixture of both religious and cultural ceremonies. Also, you will look at the concept of marriage in the 21st century as how many would come to look at marriage in our daily terminology as something that is no longer necessary. Why? Because they look at the financial stability and they look at the social status of someone who is married or thinking of getting married, and someone who is not married or doesn't have a plan for the near future to get married. They look at the social status of this person and they look at the financial stability of that person. Why? Because we see more and more of the youth, of the youngsters, the men and the women, they are being more independent. They are more independent. They see themselves as self-sufficient. They can live alone, rent an apartment for themselves. They are working. They have a good income coming in. So they are self-sufficient. And they question the concept of marriage in the 21st century. Also, not forgetting that technology and social media has played a very important role in changing this mindset from where we were 20, 30 years ago, and where we used to see and think that marriage was an important and vital pillar of one's life. And now we come across in our communities and societies where we speak and engage and discuss the concept of marriage in the 21st century with our brothers and sisters, with the youth in the community. And they bring up the argument that Sayyidina, or my friend, that technology and social media has made it easier for the male and the female to interact amongst each other, where inshallah we will come to discuss how one would be able to find a wife for themselves, and how the previous generations were going to lengths and lengths to finding an appropriate wife for themselves. And now, with the advance of technology and social media, how it made and makes communication between different individuals as simple and as easy, this also has its effects where people don't look at the concept of marriage as something important. They look at it as a casual matter. And they think and they believe and they make a decision that for the time being, I would not be interested in getting married as long as socially I have the social media and I am able to access the files and the profiles and the information of a wide range of people across a wide range of spectrum. Now, in this episode and tonight, I would like to address some questions. And inshallah, at the end, we will come out with a clear understanding of why marriage is still a vital role and has its importance in one's life through some of the verses of the Holy Quran, through our experiences and the experiences of the previous generations. And inshallah, this episode will help format and pave the way for our brothers and sisters who are thinking of getting married and those who are already married to continue this path until they reach the path of salvation. First of all, I would like to discuss the first point, which is, my dear brothers and sisters, is the pros and cons. The pros and cons of getting married early. The second point is, where does one look, or how would one be able to find their future spouse, their future wife? Third, one's behavior and attitude before they get married and after they get married. And fourthly, the pros and cons of starting a family soon after getting married, i.e., bringing in children into that family. And number 5 is that how important is it for a married couple or a couple thinking of getting married or are already married to be amongst a strong community, and how that community would be able to affect this couple in a positive manner. First of all, what are the pros and cons, or the positives and the negatives of getting married at an early age? Well, as far as I remember, 20, 30 years ago, when I was in that age of starting to being able to understand the world around me, starting to feel that emotion and that desire, the interest, as the lust starts to grow in the body of a young man and the young lady, they start thinking of finding that missing part of the puzzle, which is starting a relationship. Finding a partner that they can have intimate discussions with. They can have discussions with where normally I am not able to have this kind of discussions or open these kind of topics with my family at home, with my father, with my brother, with my mother, with my other siblings or immediate relatives. Here, where we find, and out of experience, that getting married at an early age is positives. Why? Because the young man and the youth and the young lady is going through a kind of a difficult time, especially in terms of their desires, in terms of their emotions, in terms of their psychology, in terms of their lust, in terms of the community and the society and the environment that they live in. Especially for the young men and women who live in the West, we see, and I have close interaction with the youth, and how they come and share some of their issues and their problems, of how they see when they go out there, outside, as soon as they step out of the house, they see the world differently. It's a different world, with people walking in the streets, hand in hand, with people, for example, men and women maybe exchanging very romantic discussions and comments with each other, with seeing posters and billboards and advertisements of different kind of products, of different kind of services. All of these do affect. So once a young man and a young lady decide to get married, it is the start of them being stable in life. Okay, a young man and a young lady, they wish to get married and they have decided. But one might come and ask that this person is not ready morally to get married, as it was in the case of some of the brothers and sisters that we have received their information. They would say that Sayyidina, When I got married and I was in my early teen, 19, 20, 21, I had that excitement of getting married. I had that energy. But at the same time, years later, I found that I didn't have that experience, which is part of the cons. I didn't have that attitude. I didn't have that behavior. Morally and ethically, I may have been ready. I knew that it's important for one to get married, and that marriage to be in a lawful manner, in a contract, in an agreement between two partners, and in a religious context or a social context, in a context within the community. But then later on I found out, Sayyidina, that if I did actually wait for another 2 or 3 or 4 years, I would have been intellectually more appropriate. I would have been ready in terms of thinking for my future, planning my future, what kind of a person I would like to get married. I would have spent more time in analyzing what my interests are. For example, if I wanted to get married to a specific person, I would be able to make sure that this person is the most appropriate person for my future goals. So, the pros of getting married is that you start a stable life, you set the foundations for your life, and you grow together. For a young couple to get married at a young age, they would be able to start a life, build a life together, instead of living the majority of their life by themselves until they reach the age of 30, 31, 34, 35, sometimes later. They live that life all alone, and then they decide to get married. That majority of the life is gone, has passed. Now, one of the positives of getting married at an early age, as I said, is to build that life together. You start from scratch and you gradually build. Now, there might be times for the young man and the young lady that they might go through difficulties. They are building this life together, but there might be a time where they go through difficulties, they go through some hurdles in their lives, but still that will add experience to their lives, and they will live together. The second point is that when they live together, they enjoy living together. They don't need to think about their emotions, and they don't need to think about their lust and their desires and their interests. Why? Because they know they have someone that they can share those desires and those interests with in a lawful manner, without anyone to come and question them, especially if they were from a community or a religion that everything that they do is looked at and gets questioned. So one of the things is that they build their life together, and statistically, when we go and research, we find that those who build their life together from an early age, they tend to continue living with each other until the last moments of their lives. The rate of divorce, or the divorce rates in these kind of situations, is very low. Now, what are the other positive points of getting married at an early stage? Getting married or thinking to get married at an early age is that you're constantly thinking that this is a very important project in my life. This is a very important step that I need to take in my life. So you're continuously thinking about it. It's one of your most important to-do list points. You won't leave it and come back to it after 10 or 15 years where it's too late for, in some cases, as we saw, some of the brothers and sisters. So, you will be able to start a young family, you and yourself, you and your wife, satisfied, start a home, build a home, You will be able to have your family, your parents, your grandparents, your uncles and your aunties to help you build that family, to help you build the foundations of a stable family. Now, some of the cons of getting married at an early age is that, again, you would find that the lack of experience. Either the husband is not experienced in life matters, or the wife is not experienced. All the time they have been at home. They have been under the care of their parents. And unfortunately, the parents, they themselves, you would find in some situations that they are not ready. They don't have that skill to come and educate their son or their daughter in starting a life in the context of being married. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran speaks about the importance of getting married from an early age, and through the narrations of the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we see that highlighted. Some of the verses in the Holy Quran that speak about getting married and how that would help answer some of the misconceptions of the negatives of getting married early. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَأَنْكِحُوا الْأَيَامَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّالِحِينَ مِنْ عِبَادِكُمْ وَإِمَائِكُمْ إِنْ يَكُونُوا فُقَرَاءَ يُغْنِهِمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ وَاللَّهُ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Another verse in another part of the Holy Quran. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Now, when you read such verses, and when you read some of the narrations that we have received from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, for example, as Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi was asked about the importance of one getting married at an early age. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam say, when a young person is ready to get married, and Amir al-Mu'mineen gives the example that Rasulullah gave, it's like a fruit hanging of a branch of a tree. Once that fruit is still has time to ripe, you see it's holding, or the branch of the tree is holding that fruit very tightly. That means that this fruit is not ready for it to be taken off and eaten. But once the fruit is ready and it's not taken off that tree, that fruit is not taken off and prepared for it to be consumed and left on the branch of that tree, the wind and the different changes of the climate will affect that fruit which is still hanging on that tree, and it will make it defect and expire and get to be a rotten fruit, not a fresh fruit. Now here Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi uses that example to say that the mindset of the young man and the mindset of the young lady, my dear brothers and sisters, should be as such that as long as they are ready and they are mentally, intellectually, physically, emotionally, they are ready, then the community, the family should very quickly start thinking of getting them a husband or a wife. Why? Because if they remain like that for a year or 2 or 5 or 10 years, especially with the advancement of technology and social media, that person will start being influenced, their mind and their mindset will start being influenced in a negative way, where it would take them away from the notion of getting married. How many of the youth, the brothers and sisters, do we have that one of the, I don't know to say, one of the positives of technology is that every single individual, at least the young men and women, they carry a smartphone with them. And life is so at the moment is that every smartphone makes it easier for you to interact with the social world outside, with the social media platforms. Now, that young man or that young lady who doesn't have a person monitoring, because they don't have experience, because they don't have what it needs, what it takes to interact with the immediate world outside. Once they interact and they open the world of the internet and the world of social media and the world of those applications that make it easier for them to communicate and to speak and to chat and to flirt and to exchange comments and to exchange photos and videos amongst each other, where would he need the desire, or where would then this desire come for him to start thinking of building a family? He doesn't need. He says, I am socializing. Emotionally, I am being satisfied because I am interacting with the opposite gender. I am interacting with a friend or a close, intimate friend that I have found over the social media. They are happy with me. I am happy with them. We are chatting. We are spending time together. They are easily accessible. They don't have to be next to me. I don't have to be next to them. I don't have to call them in the darkness of the night where maybe people will hear me. My parents will hear me. I am in my bedroom. I can close the door. I can speak to them freely about whatever I want. These are the negatives, brothers and sisters, where we see that's the second point, is that how and where would someone look for a wife? I remember, I can share with you some of my personal experience and how these experiences, inshallah, would help pave the way for my brothers and sisters in thinking of getting married and where to look for a wife or where to look for a husband. The way that I found my wife was through my religious center, my Islamic center. I was young. Our parents were regular attendees of this Islamic center, this Islamic community organization. And through that is that the parents get to know the fathers, and they get to know how many children they have, male or female. And the ladies, in the ladies section, they would be able to interact and see the families interact with the women in the ladies' side, and also find and look at the young ladies and the ladies and find if she is married or if she's ready for marriage. How does she look? How does she behave? How does she dress? How does she communicate? Is she ethically, morally ready to get married? So it was through that. There are certain individuals who get married through finding their wives through their religious and community centers. There are those who tend to find their partners through school, college, university, because of their daily schedules. They go into school, into the classroom, into the common room, into the corridors, mingling with other students, sitting down in the canteen, eating. Of course, there are many who get to know who get to choose their friends in school or in college or university, and their friends, they might introduce them to their future partners. So there is that side of the aspect of finding a wife, where there would be a group of people who find their wives in educational institutes. Now, there might be organized events, social events, where I would be able to go to the social event. My intention to going to that social event wasn't to go and find a wife or a husband. Maybe that was the last point I was thinking of. But we see and we know some of our brothers and sisters, they attend, whether they are attendees or whether they are the organizers of some social events or community events, or whether they are volunteers in some of these events, and as a result of their presence in those events, they do find their future wives or husbands. Or sometimes we see the social media. Social media, as we alluded to, would help in some situations positively and in some situations negatively. Help find a partner for one, so they can get to know each other and get to find each other's contact details, and they communicate with each other, and then the dating starts, and then they get to see each other, speak with each other, and then once they decide that they are ready for marriage, or this person or this partner or this friend has what it takes to be a good husband or a good wife, then they take the next step to go and introduce them to their immediate families. If there was a family in that equation. Sometimes there isn't a family. Sometimes the young man or the young lady lives in a home, lives in a house that there is a father, there is a mother, there are other members of the family, but he lives in a world and they live in a world. He cares about his own life and they care about their own life. They don't interact with each other. And this is a problem, brothers and sisters, where the young man and the young lady, they see that urge, they see that need, they see that want to get married. Why? Because of maybe an emotional reason, maybe because of a physical reason, maybe because intellectual reason that they want to get married. But they are afraid to go and open this discussion, this topic with their parents, with their father, with their mother, because the father is known to be very strict. He knows that if I go step forward and speak to my father, he's going to frown into my face. He's going to start shouting at my face. He says, you are still a kid. You are still not ready. Where are your responsibilities? You can't even clean your bedroom. You can't even clean in the house. Help your parents at the house. Help your mother. Help me. How would you want to be a responsible person? So there is that negative aspect of the parents not being able to establish that relationship and that communication with their children at that very sensitive time when they are ready or when they are thinking of getting married. It is very important, my dear brothers and sisters, to have that relationship for parents, to have that relationship with their children, and for children to be able to feel at ease. There isn't any hurdles, there are no boundaries, there are no difficulties, there is no sense of fear inside them that stops them from speaking their minds and speaking their hearts to their parents, to their mothers or to their fathers. Because many a times we see that there are individuals who go behind the backs of their parents. They go and start a relationship. They live with that person for years, and then the parents come to find out that their son or daughter have had a relationship. And there are times that they don't find out. Why? Because of that lack of responsibility from the part of the parents, the father and the mother, and that lack of communication. And they have not built that trust between the parents and the children. That's why it leads some of the children to going and finding themselves a girlfriend at school, or the girl or the female goes and finds herself a boyfriend, whether it was from her own community or from outside her community. And that has its negatives, brothers and sisters. So my advice to the parents is that to monitor the situation of their child, the young man or the young lady. Open this discussion with them. Opening this discussion and feeling a bit shy or a bit anxious or a bit You might feel uncomfortable speaking to your son or daughter about the concept of marriage and finding them a wife, or where to look for a wife, and having someone on your mind, and if this person is appropriate for your son or daughter. Open this discussion, because if you don't, it's better to open it, because if you don't open this discussion, you would go and find out that your son or daughter have engaged into a relationship that at the end of the day wasn't what you was planning for your son or daughter. Now, you find a husband or a wife which you believe he or she is the most appropriate person for you to live the rest of your life with. What are the pros and cons of starting a family, bringing in children at the beginning of that marriage? Well, the pros would be, my dear brothers and sisters, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the verses that I have quoted, that some believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He Himself is the source of all of the barakat and the sustenance and the blessings. Once a young man and a young lady think of getting married and starting a young family, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will assure the blessings and the sustenance to be coming down upon them. وأنكحوا الأيام منكم والصالحين من عبادكم وإمائكم إن يكونوا فقراء يغنهم الله من فضله والله واسع عليم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I, Allah Rabbil Alameen, the Creator, will give, will support, will bring down my sustenance, will bring down my blessings upon this sincere couple who would like to, in a lawfully stable manner, start a family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, throughout the Holy Quran and through the holy messengers and through the holy prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, He encourages the human being to getting married and to starting a family, especially a young family. Why? Because once the father and the mother get married at a young age and start a young family, bring a son or a daughter into that family, that son and daughter, whilst the parents are they themselves growing up, building their life together, that child, that son or daughter is also growing up with them. First of all, you would see that the mother or the father, they have the energy. They still have that ability to interact, to live, to give and take, to play around, to spend time, to be patient with that youngster, with that little boy or that little girl, with that baby, with that infant, with that newborn. Because at times we see there are individuals, in terms of the cons and the negatives of getting married and starting a new a young family, bringing children into that family, is that once they get married and they are in their late 30s, they are more occupied with work outside the house, with their responsibilities, with the difficult struggles of life. When they come home, they are not interested. The last thing on their mind, my dear brothers and sisters, is that for the father to come home and spend an hour or half an hour playing around with that little child. Now, if that little child, all during the day, from the morning until the afternoon or until the evening, is all alone, the mother is busy with the house chores, with cooking. Maybe she goes out and she leaves the little child in a care center or in a nursery. Now, that child would find that spending time outside the house is more enjoyable and more pleasant than the environment at home. Why? Because the mother is busy either chatting or socializing or watching TV or cooking or cleaning. Where would she have time? Now, he or she would see the father. My father leaves early and I am still asleep. The child will still be asleep. When my father comes back home, he is tired. He has had problems. The pressure of life, the finances, the people dealing with people outside, the work, the responsibilities of running a house, a home, child, all of these would affect negatively. But then, what is important for my dear brothers and sisters to know is that they should be planning. Life needs planning. You can't just jump into the deep end. You can't just wake up one morning and say, I am ready, I want to go get married. I remember one summer when we went on holiday with my parents and with my siblings. At that time, one of my cousins was going to get married, going to ask for his future wife's hand in marriage. Now he was maybe a few months older than me. When I saw this situation, I started thinking, why wouldn't I get married? Everyone was happy. He's getting married. He is happy. He's excited. And I wanted to be happy and excited. So I, without thinking, in a split second, I went and told my mother and my aunties, I want to get married. We were on holiday. We weren't thinking, my parents, they weren't thinking, and I wasn't thinking of getting married. But when I saw that situation, I decided I want to get married. Of course, my parents at that time did not agree with me, so I went to my aunties. And I stayed there for a couple of days, and I was upset and angry. But unfortunately, there are those brothers and sisters who decide for a split second to get married, and then once they get married, they want to get children. I'm not saying don't get married at an early age or don't decide to get a family. All of that I encourage. But a bit of planning. Sit down and think about it, about your situation. If you are ready, then it's good. It's merry and rosy. But if you are not ready, maybe in the next year, maybe in the next 2 years, because you have to be ready when this newborn child enters your life. You will be able to cater for all of their needs. Because if you don't, then there are those situations where you will be able to sit down with yourself and think, why did I make that mistake? Why did I get married? I am having a difficult time running this family, whether you are the father or the mother, the husband or the wife. You would come and sit down and say, I am struggling, I am neglecting my own self, let alone taking care and catering for the needs of this newborn child. That's why these conflicts, these problems, these arguments start within a family. Now, let's say the family, the immediate family, at times they will take sides of the husband, or the wife's family will take their side. This is the natural situation. When there is a difficulty, when there is a problem, when there is an argument, when the family is going through hurdles, these arguments start. So where would you go? Which brings us to the last point, where the importance of having a good, a positive community around you. Why? Because that community, once you interact with that community will have the elders in the community who are wiser, who have more life experience, who have seen such things around in the community, who have experience in dealing with these kind of problems. Being around a positive community or a good community would have its positives, where they will never allow this problem to become bigger and bigger and leave the context of the house. As I have experienced these from first hand, where in every family, brothers and sisters, there are problems. In every family, there will be arguments. In every family, there will be disagreements. In every family, there will be problems. Why? Because sometimes you see the husband wants to do something, thinks about something in a specific way, and the wife wants to do something in a different way. The way of thinking the way of wanting to do things, their interests, their needs, their desires may be different. And this is something normal. This is the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in where He created mankind. خلقناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. Each one of you is different. You have a different language. You have a different mindset. You think in a different way. But this is normal, but as long as there are understandings amongst each other. So having and living amongst a stable family and amongst a stable community is very important, brothers and sisters. Why? Because you will be able to identify a religious figure. You will be able to go to them, sit down with them, speak to them in a most private manner. And this is one of the problems that some of our youth go through. As back in the days, the language barrier and the ideologies and the mindsets of some of the elders in the community did not allow some of the brothers and sisters, some of the youngsters to go forward because they feared that whether this person is going to get a wrong idea. Maybe he's going to think negatively about me. Maybe he's going to say, oh, I thought you were so-and-so. I thought you was well-behaved. I thought you was morally and ethically balanced. So the language barrier is very important, brothers and sisters. The ways we communicate with the youth and community centers, they need to adhere to that need. Sometimes we need to have some of our elders, we need to have some of our scholars, we need to have some of our young religious leaders to socialize, to interact with some of the brothers and sisters in the community center. Make yourself available. As this wasn't available back in the days, this was one of the things that pushed me towards taking this route of making myself present and available amongst my dear brothers and sisters, the youngsters in the community. Where would the young man or where would the young lady go if at home she doesn't have anyone to speak to? If in the community center she doesn't feel comfortable speaking to the elders in the community? Or the young man, he is afraid, maybe that Hajji or that man or that uncle or that grandfather or that member of the community, he is an individual, he himself is not experienced. And this is where the problem lies. Sometimes, my dear brothers and sisters, we see individuals who are elders in the community, but sometimes they direct the youth to a wrong path. They give them the wrong advice. They show them the wrong solution. The positive community plays a big role, brothers and sisters, alongside a good family, alongside a good father and a mother, alongside a good father-in-law and a mother-in-law. There needs to be a positive community that always adheres to the needs of the newlywed. The newlywed are individuals who are still on the path of building their emotions, building their experiences, building their mindset. In the midst of the world outside, in terms of the finances, in terms of the running the house, in terms of the running the family, they are going to be in need of extra help and support, especially when things are becoming more difficult. They are becoming more difficult because people's attitudes are changing. People's way of thinking is changing. People's thinking about marriage and how to get married is changing. You see, the young man is ready to get married, but the young lady and her parents are making things difficult. All of these things would contribute to a community, to a society of becoming dissolved morally and ethically. So, it is very important, brothers and sisters, to think about getting married. And the earlier and the sooner that you think about and you put that in your mind, the sooner you will be able to live a stable life. The sooner you will be able to find an appropriate wife for yourself. A wife that will stand by you. A wife that will help you. You will help and support the wife. She will help and support you in building the life that you want to live. And this is where planning comes in. Where do I look for a wife? Do I look for a wife at school, college, or university? Maybe. Maybe there is a person there. You get to know them. You find their contact details. You find their family. You send your family there. Then, one needs to think about their attitude and behavior before getting married. Is my attitude the attitude of a good father, a good husband? Or the young lady thinks about, is my attitude the attitude of a good housewife, a good mother, a good partner? Then we have to plan whether we bring into our life newborn child. Are we going to be able to help and support and nurture them in the most perfect way? Or are we still thinking about ourselves? Are we still nurturing our own selves? Are we still building on our experiences? And then we become part of one successful community where, inshallah, we will be able to help and support and share that experience with other youngsters in the near future. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help and support every young man and every young lady to getting married and to finding the most appropriate, positive wife and husband for themselves. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the souls of all the marhumeen, mu'mineen and mu'minat. I ask you to include me and include the mu'mineen and mu'minat in your du'as and prayers and supplications in these holy nights. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Going to give you the longest narrator, inshallah.
والعاقبة للمتقين.
I hope this show puts aside any misconceptions that the Shias have a different Quran. Not only do we have the same Quran, we have even more beautiful reciters.
I don't know how to say his name.
Yeah, it's
But you know how to say Liverpool.
Allah. But I didn't think we needed to stop him. I thought he's in a good...
No, you give me ticket?
That's right. I was coming to that.
My whole family was baffled. They were all like, what's she gonna talk about? What's she gonna talk about? We'll get a one-way ticket to hell, no transit.
The Zahra Trust, changing millions of lives every year.
Put a finger down if you have access to fresh water. Put a finger down if you have food in your fridge. Put a finger down if you have access to healthcare. Put a finger down if you have never lived in a war zone. Put a finger down if you have family around you. Put a finger down if you have a warm bed to sleep in. Put a finger down if you have clothes in your wardrobe. Put a finger down if you have a roof over your head. Put a finger down if you have access to education. Put a finger down if you want to be part of changing the world.
more for raping English girls. Remember? You're here defending the paedophiles. I'm here defending your dad. These women are here defending the paedophiles. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy.
They love us, our food, our fashion,
our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
and plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active. Be more involved.
www.imamhusseinfree.tv.
Inni sammaytuki Fatima. I named you Fatima. Fatima means fatum, like weaning.
Inshallah, today we are looking at the topic of the love that we have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the holy Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam.
Join us in the holy month of Ramadan as we bring to you a brand new season of the 14 pillars, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, for everyone.
As we discuss important topics related to the holy month of Mahr Ramadan and link it back to the current society that we live in today, exclusively here on Imam Hussein TV, your gateway to Karbala.